Every year, my family kind of goes redneck and gets together to shoot guns. I'm no gun expert myself by any stretch of the means, but I do like to shoot a rifle here and there. Well, about a month ago, in early July, right before the 4th, I had an experience with a creature that I cannot properly identify, and I need help. Since I am the youngest of 3 brothers, it is my job to help set up the shooting range. That means I have to go down there, set up the targets, and make sure the tires we have behind the targets are properly in place and routed down correctly. As I am down there, putting up the targets, the rest of my family is inside, waiting for me to finish the job, when off to my left in the woods, I hear a loud sniffing sound. You know how a dog makes that sniffing sound? It was that exact sound, but really exaggerated and very loud. I turned, and in the clearing of the trees was this large Doberman Pinscher-looking animal. It was a smoky black, with tall cropped ears, huge teeth, and what I would describe as very striking yellow eyes. It had its head up in the air, and it was sniffing something. I don't know what it smelled. I was hoping it wasn't smelling me. This thing was also incredibly ripped. It looked like it was pushing weights on a Bowflex back in the woods or something. Completely overly muscled upper torso with a thinner, smaller, dog-like behind area. I know the analogy might be stupid, but if you've ever seen Family Guy, there's a character whose name is Joe. He's in a wheelchair. He's incredibly ripped, but his legs are very small and petite. That's the best way I can describe the drastic look and change of this creature's body. Like this thing only ever built up the muscles in its front portion of body. As soon as I saw it, I was petrified, and I ducked down behind the large target, hoping that it would not see me. I sat there while I thought I was hidden, and I heard this sniffing sound a while longer, and then it ceased. It was probably a couple of minutes before I felt like I had the guts to even turn my head just to check. I saw that it was gone, and I took that opportunity to bolt for it back to the house. I never heard it as I left or walked away, so I really had no idea if it was still in the same spot or not, or if it would even chase after me. I wasn't going to risk finding out, if we're being honest with each other. I get to the back door, and my brothers begin questioning me why I have not put all the targets up yet, and I tell them simply that we can't shoot because there's a huge bear. I am then met with a billion questions of what do you mean there's a bear, blah 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 blah. I knew if I described them exactly what I saw, I would have been laughed at, so I just wrote it off as a big brown bear. After some thorough convincing, they seemed to believe me, and instead, we just gave up on shooting that day and decided to all go ATVing, off in a much different area far away from here. I don't know what it was I saw, but it was a humongous animal. The sight of it alone petrified me. It looked like it could have done some serious damage if it got a hold of somebody or something. So here's the million-dollar question. What exactly did I see? This happened 2 months ago, when my aunt and sister came back from horseback riding, when they told me about something big following them home. Whatever it was spooked the horses badly. They were only able to catch a small glimpse of it through the trees, but this animal was paralleling them the entire way home, which was about a 3-mile trail that they took. The trail they take, which is right near the house, makes a larger horseshoe shape, and at the bend in the trail runs right along a large creek that flows through the entire valley. It's beautiful to hike and to ride your horses through, normally, having been on the trail only a few times myself. It had my sister really freaked out, and she felt terribly on edge almost the entire time back, feeling like something was watching her, just beyond the trees, following them all the way back. My aunt is pretty experienced in the outdoors, much more than my sister, and is able to keep grounded much easier. She ain't fazed by much. She's a pretty hardy woman, but even she admits her nerves were going the entire way back. She knows that if her horses are responding to whatever is around them, it's not just their imagination. What exactly it was is unclear. They only heard a noise like something big running through the trees and heavy breathing. At other points, they would hear grunts and even snarls nearby. My aunt told me that she said it sounded really big, like a bear or possibly a moose, but neither of those animals behave in such a manner. It sounded like it was on all fours, judging by the way it walked, and did not walk bipedally. The horses seemed really skittish and wouldn't walk anywhere near the edge of the trail where it hugged a small patch of grass, and then right where the trees were at. This animal, or thing, followed them closely, right beyond sight in the trees, all the way until the trail broke, about several hundred yards that led down into a small vale where my aunt's house is, and beyond that, the stables where they keep their horses. Obviously, if it really wanted to, it could have come out of the trees at any time and attacked them or the horses, but it chose not to. It kept purposefully hidden for some reason. Neither my aunt or my sister fully knows or understands why. There's no large predators in the area that behave this way, sound like that, or are as large as that sounded. Nothing added up, and it really made both of them rethink walking the horses on that trail, especially during that time. This happened at about 7 p.m. in the evening time. It was still bright out, but the sun was beginning to set, and it was starting to get dusk. No light visibility had lessened yet. They both tried to move faster on the bend back to the house. The climate is also very dry. In the summertime, it's rattlesnake country. With all the brush and rocks, it can be very dangerous to be out there by yourself stranded. The woods are full of white oak, pine, and fir, all littered throughout. They both said that it is one of the only times either has heard or dealt with such a thing. My father passed away in 2007, and ever since then, I inherited his house in Louisiana that is bordering right up against some swamp. The swamp goes on for about 5 miles and then butts right up against some hard pine wood. That goes on for a few more miles, and I'm not sure what that turns into, because honestly, I haven't explored far enough. What I can tell you is standing out on the back porch at night, you have a beautiful view of the swamp below you. I say below you because when you step off the back porch, the land is almost a hill and continues to descend into the swamp before you hit the marshy ground, and then it descends more into the water. Well, I like to sit out there at times, and more so at night, drink moonshine, and sometimes smoke a cigar, and I'm not lying to you. I've seen large shadows moving around in the swamps at night, just outside the light's reach. Before you go off saying that I'm probably seeing a Bigfoot and the shadows, what I've seen from the silhouette is something that resembles a dog on all fours, but just large. Listen, I understand that I'm making pretty drastic claims, but I'm telling you what my eyes make out to be a very large canine-looking animal, and for whatever reason, it continues to stay just beyond the full sight of light. Does it make me uncomfortable? Of course it does. I feel like this animal watches me. I'm not going to go all horror movie style on you and tell you that it stood up on 2 legs and tried to attack my house. But I do feel like whatever animal it is, I've never seen it before in my life. I don't live down here full time, but I do try and come down here as often as I can to honor my father. It never fails that it's out there watching me in the darkness. I know there are times that I'm out there, and even if I can't see it, I can feel the presence of this animal. The real kicker here is I don't know exactly what it is. I can only see the faint silhouettes, but I've seen this silhouette enough times to be able to accurately tell you it looks to me like a large canine, as I've stated to you previously. To my knowledge, there are no species of wolf that inhabit any swampland, but I'm no animal expert. The problem with that hypothesis is the silhouette is very large. If I'm able to put it in perspective with another animal, I would say it's even larger than a good-sized buck you would get in hunting season. That doesn't seem plausible, I know, but I've seen this figure moving enough times that I could tell you there is no being off on my size estimates. My eyes just don't play tricks on me. This is a large animal. It's very possible that maybe there's a specific species of wolf out here that have evolved over time to inhabit and live in segments of the swamp. It's the only thing that really makes sense to me. There's been a lot of areas in the state and swampland where development and construction alone have come in and, well, removed a lot of things. Everything here is practically untouched, and there's really not even any houses around me. Just swamp for the most part. It's too dangerous to go exploring down into the swamp, even during the daytime, with all the poisonous animals and alligators around. I don't have that much faith in the swamp to keep me safe, and after seeing the small amount of whatever animal this is at nighttime, you can count me out and I'll stay out. Now, I will say that I do listen to your channel often, because it helps me sleep at night, and I'm a fan of horror stories in general. But can I outright say that this is in fact a dogman? I don't know. I always figured I would have a much better chance of seeing a Bigfoot than I would ever have a dogman, but again, I don't know. Until I can get a spotlight on this creature and see it in the light for good, then I can't be 100% positive and make an accurate determination. Here's my worry. If I try and shine a light on it, I'm going to be provoking it in some way. And I honestly don't want to be dealing with some sort of swamp predator that's super intelligent, trying to hunt me down or break into the house that I'm in. I don't know if that's all the cryptid encounters that I've been listening to talking, or if that's a legitimate fear that I have. My gut just tells me to leave it alone, and let whatever animal that is be. I don't feel the need to prove the existence of anything. So with that in mind, I'm just here to share with you my experiences, and simply leave it at that. I believe I had a dogman encounter a few months back, right when the quarantine started happening. I was going to take my woman out on a date night, since we hadn't gotten to do anything right when the quarantine hit. So, I took her out for a night to go look out at the stars. It was late April, early May, so things were beginning to warm up, just a pinch, which meant that nighttime wouldn't be freezing cold anymore. She and I got in my truck, packed a couple of blankets, and set sail for about 20 minutes away, closer to the mountain where there's a larger meadow that I'd been thinking about laying in and watching the stars with her. We pulled off to the side of the road, got flashlights, and made our way out to the middle of this large meadow, and laid our blankets down. It was a tad chilly, but not too bad. We wore light jackets and we had a blanket to cover us up, so we were okay to snuggle and watch the skies together. The night was actually pretty clear. We could see all the stars and everything perfectly. Now, I want to lay this out for you so you have a better picture of my entire situation. The truck is about 100 feet away, give or take, in our view. We're in a large open meadow with very tall grass, and there are no woods around us that are necessarily close. We felt very safe and comfortable. The night was quiet, only the low hum of crickets, so we didn't really notice anything going awry at first listen. My girlfriend started acting funny after a while before she sat up, acting all sorts of paranoid and looking around. I asked her, "What? You freak the cops are going to show up and bust us?" She tells me to shh, and we both listen closely. We can hear something big moving slowly in the grass close by. It would be a slight shuffling noise and then stop. Then it would start up again and then stop. We're both looking at one another, mouthing, "What animal is that?" It sounded really big. I continued lying there, listening closely, while my girlfriend was trying to be as sly as possible and still look out the night if she could see anything, but she couldn't. Whatever was shuffling and making moving noise in the grass had been getting closer and closer to us, inch by inch. I can't say exactly how close or how far away it got, but it felt like it was getting too close for comfort. When you start to feel in danger like that, you just can't help but let your mind race to things like a possible serial killer coming to hurt you, or maybe some sort of crazed rapist. I know that's a bit drastic, but there's no reason for anybody should be out here in the meadow at 10:30 at night. There's nothing out here, which is why in my mind, it was the perfect spot for a little date with the woman. Well, I would soon learn that it was not a person like I had initially thought. My girlfriend began staring off, telling me that she thinks she could see something, and she asked me to sit up and look. So, I slowly sit up, and I look in the direction that she's pointing at, and all I could see and make out is the tips of these taller ears. I need to tell you though, that even though it was nighttime, and it being 10:30 at night, the sky was clear enough and with nearly a full moon. That's relevant because there's plenty of light from the moon, enough to see as clear as the day, and these tall perky ears, maybe about 30 feet away in the grass. We didn't know exactly what we were looking at, and then all of a sudden, this head pops out of the tall grass, looking directly at us. I had to cover my mouth, but my girlfriend just starts screaming frantically. What I saw, I will confidently say that there is no animal out there that looks like this, or should look like this. It was not natural, to say the least. The best way I'll describe it, and how this thing looked, was a devilish-looking hyena. Its face was pulled back, almost contorted, but it really resembled that of a Botox hyena. From what I can tell in the low lighting conditions, it was a dark gray, and it faded to a lighter gray. Again, the stars and nearly full moon provided enough light that we can see initial details. It opened its mouth, and it was full of triangular-shaped teeth that came to a very fine point. It had these eyes that glowed to a bright yellow, that almost resembled eyes if you were to shine a light into them, except there's no light being shined into them. What made my mind even go more towards the hyena option is that it seemed to have a pure and huge evil grin on its face. I know that might sound hokey, but I'm being real with you here. There's no mistaking that whatever this creature was staring right back at us, within a second, it opened its mouth and showed its teeth, all while maintaining its grin. Quickly, I ducked back down, thinking smart, and pulled my girlfriend down with me. I grabbed her head close to mine, and I whispered in her ear, "When I tell you to run, you need to run." I changed positions at the runner stance and got ready to bolt for the truck. Screw the blankets, I had a flashlight in my hand and that's all we needed. I turned my head towards her, and I whispered, "Run!" Her and I took off running faster than we ever have towards the truck. Not even a second goes by, and that thing that we saw begins the chase. How do I know this? Because I heard this huge trampling sound behind us in the grass, and it was closing in on us very, very quickly. As it was trampling through the grass, I could hear even more and more just how incredibly massive this animal was. And in that moment, I'm telling my girlfriend to run, and actually reaching my truck. I don't think I was thinking much of anything other than trying to survive in that moment. This thing sounded heavy. With each trample, you could hear the thud and feel the thuds in the ground. When you're in a fear like that, and you're in the moment, there really is no thought process. You're running on pure adrenaline and emotion. Fear will drive you to do great things, and in this case, it drove me and her to survive. As I'm recalling it, I can give you more vivid details because it's something I will never forget. It's an experience that will haunt me and my girlfriend for the rest of our lives, probably. Unless we undergo some sort of trauma therapy and are able to get over it, but please, what therapist is going to take us seriously? That's just not an option. Neither my girlfriend nor I am what you would call a runner by any means. Neither of us are sports people, and I did not do anything close to track in high school. I am not a fat, lazy slouch either, but I should not be able to clear 100 feet in that short amount of time as I did. I had attributed all of that to sheer adrenaline, and surprisingly, my girlfriend was able to keep up. I'm very thankful that I did not lock my truck that night. I usually do, but I must have forgotten, and so we hop right in the truck, and I didn't even bother once looking back. Like clockwork, and somehow in that crazy chaotic situation, having total control, I hopped right in the driver's side, slammed the key into the ignition, and I floored it. No seatbelt, nothing. There was no time. I don't know if whatever animal this was is trying to kill us, or if it was just trying to chase us off, or what its intent clearly was. This animal was much larger than us and faster, and I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that if it wanted to clear the distance entirely between me and my girlfriend, it could have, very easily. But no, it stayed very close behind us at an even length, and even let us get into my truck and leave. But it did not try once to attack us. Once we reached my truck, I never looked back to see if it was there or how close this was. Thinking back, I can just imagine it reaching out and trying to grab one of us, and I'm thankful that that did not happen. Was it clearly a bluff charge? Was it just trying to run us off the meadow? I don't know. What I can tell you is what was supposed to be a romantic date with my woman, watching the stars in a peaceful nature meadow, was ruined forever. That will forever be a haunting memory, constantly reoccurring. I know when most people send you stories, they try and answer all the who, what, when, where, and why. But I don't really have any of that, and I'm sorry for that. I wish I could tell you where it came from, or if it was maybe there before we even got down to the spot. Was it hiding in the grass the entire time? Or perhaps did it sneak up on us without us knowing? I still wonder what its true intentions were, and had my girlfriend not sat up and seen it, how close would it have gotten without us ever knowing? I don't even want to go there and think about that, because it's just too scary. For me, I feel like talking about it and even typing it out is therapeutic and helps me through it. It's a very scary recount for me. My girlfriend refuses to talk about it at all. Anytime I bring it up, she's quick to change the subject and won't even acknowledge that it ever happened. I haven't tried once to invite her out on a date that involves going out anywhere near a meadow or watching stars. Maybe again in the future, in the bed of my truck at our parents' driveway. But I think it's going to take some time before we can do something like that and not feel completely on edge. My girlfriend and I are not paranoid people to begin with. I feel like it was our gut instinct telling us something was wrong. Even though initially I never felt anything wrong, it was my girlfriend who told me that she felt something was wrong, which is why she stood up initially and started looking around. Thank goodness for her instinct, man. I believe it saved both of us. Had it just been me, we would both be dead. I guess for now, I'll just call it a wild hyena creature, because that's the only thing I know what to call it. I don't know if you've ever heard of creatures like this, and I'm really sorry for turning this email into a mini novella, but the more information I can give you, the more I feel better about it. Feel free to read this to your audience if you want. Maybe they might know what happened upon us that very night.